Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome to today's program. We're so glad to have you. We hope that you learned something. We hope that you're entertained. And we also hope that you get our message as normal Americans who enjoy and own firearms. You know, friends, those of you who've been watching our program for some time, we've been saying that the anti-gun types were still busy, and believe me, they are, like that bug. In fact, except they're a lot more potent than the bugs are, believe me. They're literally are not going to stop until they have everything that goes bang away from us, the gun owner. Oh, and there's another little thing that they also want to take, and that's our freedom. And yes, they're bent on it, so what we have to do, we have to defeat them at the polls, we have to defeat them in the local communities, and we can, but we have to do it. We cannot sit around, we can't lay around, we can't let somebody else go to the polls and vote. We have to go. We absolutely do. Well, let's get another shooting show underway. Now, friends, you know, you've seen me shoot a lot of targets at 100 yards over these years we've been on the air. Well, tell you what, some people would say that handguns are useless, they're not accurate, and of course we know how useful they in fact really are, which is extremely. But let's shoot our steel plate out here at 100 yards with this Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum Classic Hunter. Well, let's make it a little more interesting today. See what happens. If I can keep the sun out of my eyes with this mirror, let's see what it looks like. See if I can do this. Well, friends, are going to look at a really neat handgun today. We do appreciate the good folks at Colt sending us some guns for testing on our program. We do appreciate that amount of support, certainly. This is a version, of course, one of my favorite guns. Yeah, I don't like bumblebees. That's a real bumblebee. Okay. This is a model 1991 A1 in the Commander model. Now, the Commander is approximately 3/4 of an inch different from, say, a standard government model. And the good news is it takes the standard magazines that are so common out there, and Colt is doing a nice job. Now, they're sending through some very well finished, some very well fitted guns, and this one is certainly no exception. It shoots about as well as a government model, which honestly most service grade semi-automatics will shoot into 3 or 4 inches at 25 yards, and really for the caliber 45 ACP and for what the guns are designed for, that's, I think, certainly acceptable. It's certainly accurate enough, say at 5 or 10 feet to well penetrate the head of a rattlesnake or a cottonmouth moccasin. Certainly we have a bunch of those out here, and they're more than accurate enough for that. Very fine defensive guns if you prefer semi-automatics. Now then, here is a Smith & Wesson 45-16, which has a 3.5 inch barrel, and the Commander model here has roughly a 4 1/4 or so inch barrel. I believe that's correct. So you wouldn't think there'd be much velocity difference between the two guns, but the 45 ACP actually chronographs about 50 feet per second faster out of the Commander model Colt than the 45-16. Now, friends, let me tell you what, Smith & Wesson makes as good a double action semi-automatic probably as can be had at any price. The Smith & Wesson double action semi-autos have been very, very reliable. The only thing is, I don't like the double action capability. I don't like that operating mechanism. And as you've heard me say many times on this program, what sometimes happens, and I'll briefly repeat myself, what will happen whether a police officer, homeowner, not familiar with the semi-automatic, they go out and buy these guns that look so high-tech, and some of them pretty much are high-tech, but what will happen, they'll forget, push that safety off, pull the trigger, long double-action trigger pull, and shoot the gun, and then the gun's in the single-action mode, which is, of course, a much shorter trigger pull. Forget about it, won't decock it, and put it back in there like they should do, and it'll go back in the holster or set it down or whatever else, and they go off if with a very slight pressure on that trigger. So No, I am not a fan of double-action semi-automatics. That was a solution to a problem that Jeff Cooper said didn't exist. I think it's an unnecessary complication. That's why you see the popularity of guns like the Glock, which do not have a safety that you have to manipulate, period. Just point, pull, trigger, take finger off trigger, the gun's safe. And of course the new Smith & Wesson Sigma, which we had on the program a while back. And that's why those guns have come into vogue now, because a lot of people out there understand the principle of a revolver. Put your finger on the trigger on the revolver, pull the trigger, release the trigger, the gun is safe again. So on a semi-automatic pistol, if someone is intelligent enough to operate a semi-automatic, I think they're intelligent enough to learn how the safety mechanisms operate. Now, on the Colt model, you have literally 4 safety mechanisms on the Colt 1911s. You have a firing pin safety, you have a grip safety, you have a thumb safety, and you also have an out-of-battery safety. So these guns are, in fact, as safe a semi-automatic mechanism, I think, as exists. You just have to be able to have some sort of understanding that these guns take more work. Our friend Harold Terry says he teaches revolvers in about 12 hours of instructions. The semi-automatics take 25 hours. The semi-autos just take more work at learning how to use these guns. And I'll say it over and over again, if you're new to handgunning, if you just want a gun for personal protection, and you're not an enthusiast, you don't intend to go out and shoot the gun a lot and learn how it operates, please don't get a semi-automatic, get a revolver. Because you can put a revolver in a drawer for years and take it out and they'll still shoot, whereas the semi-automatics may or may not. You don't know if one's chambered or if one's not chambered. There are too many variables. Now, that if you're willing to spend the time and the effort to properly learn to use your semi-automatic, more power to you, and that's great, because we do have some tremendous guns out there that you can own, but you have to commit some time and a little money to buying ammunition for these guns and learning to properly operate them, learning to safely manipulate them. All of us want as much possible safety in consideration when you're learning to use a handgun or any sort of firearm as is humanly possible. One accident is just more than we want. We don't want any accidents, and just simple things like not crossing any part of your body with the muzzle, simple things like that. Always remembering, drill it in your mind, always keep that muzzle in a safe direction. Never point the gun at something that it won't do any great damage to be shot. You know, a lot of things we don't point guns at. We don't point guns at pets, we don't point guns at other people, we don't point guns at antique. Oh, another bug there. Yeah, it's summertime here in Louisiana. We got bugs, we got snakes, got a lot of stuff, and we definitely have heat. We just don't point the gun. Don't point it at our computer screen. For dry firing, if you know the gun's unloaded and you want to dry fire the gun, pick a spot, even then with something that would be safe if a bullet happened to be in that gun and it happened to go off accidentally. Just don't take chances. And the more we work at this, you see, the better we get. You know, safety is something that we practice just as much as we do our shooting skills. We have to do it. Anyway, the Commander gun has been around, I guess since the early 50s. Now I'm guessing here, I really don't know, but I'm assuming since that time. It's available in 38 Super, which is a real good caliber, and also 45 ACP. Now there may be some other calibers out there that you'll occasionally find, but those are the 2 most common, and by a wide margin, it's most common in 45 ACP. Now what is so neat about this 1991 series is it has all the quality that we have come to expect from Colt, but it is less expensive. And these guns come through with a Parkerized type finish. It's a dull or a matte black type finish. And I tell you what, my old Colt that I carry around here has been through a lot. It's a 1991 A1 and shot a lot of times, and has been in rain and mud and snow. This gun's finish has really held up extremely well. So I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it is a darn good finish. And those of us, a lot of us don't, I particularly don't care if I have a stainless or a blued gun. It doesn't make a lot of difference because I'm going to maintain it. And a little wear on the bluing does not bother me, and a good oil like Break Free or something like that is going to protect it under all kinds of conditions. So I really don't mind whether a gun's made of stainless or of blue, personally. Well, let's do a little shooting with our Commander model here. Remember, pull that slide all the way to the rear and let it go, and we'll apply our safety. Get my hearing protectors in good. Even with the shorter barrel, the velocities are good enough with this Combat Commander or Commander model, shall we say, because this essentially is the same as a Combat Commander with a little duller finish, not quite all the bells and whistles that the more expensive model would have, but for my money, it's a better deal. You do have the same better grip safety that is not going to pinch, and this Commander type hammer, of course, is Commander. A ring type hammer that is not as bad about pinching the web of your hand here. Well, let's take a look at it in recoil from my hands today. See, just not. I don't think it's objectionable at all. It has a little more muzzle whip, say, than the full-size model, a little bit, but I don't think it's objectionable. Of course, that's one of the huge advantages of the 45 ACP cartridge. You don't have the noise, say, of a 357 Magnum. You don't have the recoil of the Magnum-type guns, but in their proper range, they're very effective as defensive cartridges, which that's what they were designed for. Well, just in comparison, let's try our 45-16 and see if you can tell any difference between the muzzle flip, because these guns are competitors with each other. And we'll take a closer look in just a moment, but the Commander is just a little bit bigger, no taller, just a little bit longer than the 45-16. So let's take a look at the 45-16 and recoil, see if you can tell a difference. I believe I could detect a little more muzzle whip with the Smith & Wesson in my hands today anyway. So let's take a closer look at the Commander model. Friends, you can tell it's about the same size as the 45-16. Now this Commander is considerably less expensive than this very fine Smith & Wesson. Again, if you like double action semi-automatics, but we can see it's just a little bit longer, not very much, about the same size as the 45-16. A little longer there in the barrel and slide, but not enough to really worry about. Certainly a good, concealable, powerful semi-automatic pistol. Now here we have the full-size government model, and you can see the government model is about 3/4 of an inch longer here. It's interesting, that's not a whole heck of a lot of difference, but the Commander model feels much more compact. Now the 1991 A1 models come with a straight mainspring housing, whereas the arched mainspring housing is more commonly encountered on 1911s. Personally, I prefer the straight mainspring housing. Friends, these guns have very nice sights on them. I wish Colt would. All the front sights typically do come loose after a while if you do shoot them enough, but they're easy to fix. And of course the Commanders were the first guns that I saw from Colt that had the lowered ejection port somewhat here. So notice we do have a ring type hammer, which is and this extended slightly or different type grip safety that, again, when the hammer is cocked, it doesn't bite the web of your hand like a lot of us are used to with the standard government model. Well, let's insert a magazine in the base here. Remember, pull that slide all the way to the rear and let it go. And let's take a few shots with it. Got our steel plates out here at about 25 yards. There's one. Let's get another one here. See, so we're doing pretty good so far. Easy to shoot.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
You know, friends, this box of Corbon ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are in fact a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because Corbon is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of Corbon on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that Corbon is helping keep the Shootin' Show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on Corbon ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today. Now, friends, how would you like to have a boat that you could literally carry around in the trunk of your car? Well, that's possible now with the new briefcase boat. This has a tremendous amount of utility. You can stop on the side of the road and go duck hunting in a pond or in a small stream or a lake, whatever. You can even put a small trolling motor on it. It has a duck blind type situation that goes over it in camouflage. Really such a neat setup. Now, this is available through us here at the program. It's $495 plus shipping and handling. Call us 1-800-SAVE-YOUR-GUN. 728-8486. Talk to Al or Bobby about it. They'll be glad to talk to you. The briefcase boat. Call today. Now, friends, we're going to run a quick test. We have our pro timer on, and I've often said that the double action semi-automatics are much more difficult to manipulate. And if you've got a double action semi-automatic, well, that's okay, but please, you need to devote some time. If you're not entirely comfortable with the gun, you need to devote more time in learning to manipulate it. There are some very fine guns out there like this Smith & Wesson that people have, and they will give you good service, but you're going to have to spend more time working with it, one, to understand the mechanism, and the slide-mounted safeties typically are not as fast as the thumb-mounted safeties on the 1911 types. You know, friends, no, this is not the Shootin' Show is not a promoter of any particular gun type. We just work with what seems to work best through all our experience and the people that we work with and talk with and happen to know who are authorities in the firearms field. Anyway, let's punch our timer. We'll get in the low ready position. Safety on. Let's get off a shot on our target, point blank, see what it looks like. Okay, 69 hundredths of a second from low ready position, and we do have a good hit. All right, the trigger was in the forward position, safety on. Now then, and I don't really try, we don't favor anything. Like I said, I've said before, if we find out that a rubber band gun works better than anything, well, I'll be first in line tomorrow. Anyway, we'll check. Yes, our gun's loaded. Now then, cocked and locked condition, condition 1 on our Colt, 69 hundredths of a second. We have a good hit from our double action semi-automatic. Now then, same drill with the Colt, low ready position, safety on, punch the timer. Well, we have a hit about a ½ inch outside the circle, but pretty doggone close, 48 hundredths of a second. So honestly, that's going to be a fair rendition of speeds on first shot for someone who's moderately experienced like myself with the single action semi-automatics versus the double action semi-automatics. Well, let's do one more thing. We'll tape our holes on our target here. I'll tell you what, friends, I'm having so much fun with our health club. You know, we researched this for a long time before we ever put it on the program. I guess I was working on our health club for better than a year. And some of you remember the shows a couple of years ago. Yours truly, my profile was kind of out here somewhere, but now it's a lot better than it was, and I feel so much better. This health club is one of the best things we have done, believe me. Okay, now then, let's go for 2 shots. Again, we're going to use that double action stroke and the single action stroke. 2 shots on our target here. Low ready position. Okay, 8300s, we have 2 good hits, which kind of surprises me because typically my first and second shot will be separated somewhat. 8300ths of a second. Be sure we got enough bullets in the gun. Yes, we do. Okay. Low ready position, safety on. Okay, 7500ths. Well, what can we blew the tape off one. Yeah, I was going to say, wait, I shot twice. I didn't shoot 3 times. We have 2 more hits here in 7500. So again, I'm picking up quite a bit of speed. Once I got the gun running, it wasn't that big a differential, but certainly the speed of my first shot and my follow-up. So the single actions are just easier to shoot fast. They just are. Heck, if you got enough time, doesn't matter. You can have any sort of action you want if you have enough time. But in a defensive handgun, friends, and especially if you are a police officer, we need to think about this. And one of the beauty parts about the single actions is the safety is always on if you're not going to shoot the gun. I mean, that's something mentally that a lot of us go through. I carry a 1911 a good bit of the time, old Colt here, and if that gun, that safety better be on. It's supposed to be on, and I know it in my mind. If that safety's off, it's ready to shoot. So inadvertently, if the safety somehow gets pushed off in the holster or whatever else, I've still got those 3 backup safeties to keep the gun from inadvertently firing. But that is something that we just drill into our minds, that safety, if it's off, it's supposed to be shooting. And if it's not, well, it better be on. So, okay. Well, friends, we hope you're enjoying our program today. We're certainly pleased to bring it to you. Well, sir, the anti-gun types are at it again, aren't they?
Oh, yes. They never rest. They never rest. Have some information for you, though. Gun Owners of America has now pre-printed a lot of postcards. Then you can order sets of them. There are, I think, 51 cards in a set, and they charge you $6 for the first set and $4 for a second set, and $2.50 for each additional one. With the idea being you want to just smother Congress with postcards about this anti-terrorism bill and the problems related to it. House Resolution 666, for example, removes the incentives on BATF, or the requirement on BATF to get a search warrant. You know what I don't understand? How in the world do these people introduce bills like this when there are clear provisions in the Constitution that any 6th grader, maybe a 5th grader could read? I understood it when I was in the 5th grade. Requiring search warrants and requiring that they only issue on a showing of probable cause. It's fascinating to me that things like this can even be introduced as legislation.
Well, you know, last night I was watching, of course, as we're taping this program on Thursday, I saw a Nightline program, and they had some people from the federal government. They were talking about a new, I suppose it's a book, or I believe that's what it is, a book on what happened at Waco. And, you know, Judge, it's unreal. You can't get anybody in the government to say that they made a mistake. Now, this was very, of course, it doesn't surprise us, but none of these, I guess they're all so afraid of getting glued to the wall, huh? I mean, they cannot admit making a mistake. Now, one thing, old Koppel on there actually did rake some of the government procedures. He didn't give them softball questions like I thought he probably would, but I'm afraid that some of the liberals are going to be tearing their hair out if this Waco thing ever does see the light of day, don't you think?
Well, of course, you know, that's one of the theories on why Oklahoma City
even happened.
It
As a
derailed.
distraction.
It derailed the Waco hearings. And I'm not accusing anybody of deliberately blowing up a federal building or perhaps killing a lot of people for personal gain, but I think it at least deserves some exploration and investigation.
Well, something that really bothered me, you know, the entire Waco incident was taped by camera. They had cameras everywhere, because as a lot of us feel, that was meant to be a show of force to frighten all of us gun owners. Well, I find it interesting, and they had some taped Koresh conversations, and when Koresh was saying, review your tape, look who fired first. Go back and look at the tape. Well, you know what? Suddenly, that tape of when the ATF people went in initially was blank. It's somehow missing. Now, they have everything else, but the tape on showing, and Koresh said it was going to show who fired first. And they had he said, go back and look at the tape. Koresh himself said that. They played that. But that tape doesn't exist. I can't imagine how that might have happened. Can you? That tape's
Yeah, I
gone.
imagine how it happened. The BATF simply destroyed it.
Somebody did.
Well, as you say, somebody did. The National Rifle Association is conducting a statewide, state-by-state volunteer network in connection with registration and in voting, and they've put out all the information on Louisiana elections. Got an interesting thing from one of our viewers. Some copies of the PIN newsletter. Do you know what the PIN is?
Well, I hadn't seen one until it came in here, the Private Intelligence Network. I don't know.
It's a private intelligence network newsletter. And so far, I've only seen 3 of the issues, and it's put out every other month. January was Volume 1, Number 1. March was Volume 1, Number 2. And May, June was Volume 1, Number 3. It's put out. It is all you have to do is ask to be on the distribution list. They've got all sorts of interesting things in it, including photographs and so forth. Let me give you the address of it. They are relying purely on voluntary contributions. The man that puts it out at his own expense. He does need contributions because he's gotten requests for subscriptions from a very wide variety of people. And the address is Mailbag, Post Office Box 1344. That's Post Office Box 1344 in Easley, E-A-S-L-E-Y, Easley, South Carolina, 29641. He has some very interesting
To say the least.
things to say. He's also, at first blush, appears to be a bit paranoid. But as one of my friends once said, even people who are paranoid have enemies. And he wants any contributions to be in cash. He don't want you to send checks. Doesn't want you to send. He wants everything to be first class, and to make sure you wrap cash up so it's not easily identified for what it is. He says what he charges is nothing. He says like, if you want to make a donation, he's happy to get it. He says we live on faith.
Well, certainly all of us do. I think most of us because we still have faith in our country, in our system, in what this nation is all about. But as we said at the opening program today, the opening of the show, we cannot sit around and hope that somebody will go down to the polls and vote the right thing. We can't sit around hoping someone will write the congressman or their senators and say the right things. We can't worry about hopefully someone else will. We have to do it ourselves, don't you agree?
Yeah, we have to do it ourselves, Johnny. And I ran into a very interesting software program. I don't know how many of our viewers have computers and printers. Today there are millions of people that do, and I trust that at least some of our viewers do. The software program that I haven't gotten it yet. I've ordered it. It's supposed to be in. Maybe it'll be in time for the program next week. It's got the names, addresses, telephone numbers, fax numbers of every member of Congress, and I think everybody in the executive department too. However many thousands that is. And they have an easy way of writing letters to your congressmen or to your senators. I don't know exactly the details of the software program, but it was sold to me pretty cheap too, on the theory that it would make writing congressmen a lot easier, and there were some formats and so forth in there that you could copy, and in any event, I'll give you a report on it as soon as I get it. I write these things all the time, and it takes quite a bit of effort and time to write a letter that is, shall we say, coherent, sensible.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month.
Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today.
Is to remember that you can only educate people by taking them from something that they already know to something that they didn't know, and you must take them in steps that are small enough for them to understand, and steps that are logical enough where they might believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's pretty fundamental for teaching anything.
Well, I think so. We certainly try and do that on the program, and some of these things we show about how guns work and all, because if someone doesn't understand, you can't take them from a pellet gun to a machine gun in one lesson. You know, you have to go along a little bit at a time to something they can comprehend.
Well, the same thing holds true in the political arena, Johnny. If you're going to try to educate people politically, you have to start off with something to know and something to understand. Hopefully, in the United States of America, that starts with the Constitution. I don't know how many people have actually read the Constitution. I read it in school. And of course, being an attorney, I read it many times. True, I have read spots of it, particular parts of it, in much greater detail than other parts. For example, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the federal Constitution are, to me, the most important part, certainly one of the most important parts of the Constitution. And to the extent that people tell you that treaties override the Constitution, I think, and I believe it's capable of successful argument, that the amendments to the Constitution, being an amendment that was done afterwards, supersede anything that's in the Constitution to the contrary, and that consequently no treaty can abrogate the provisions of the Bill of Rights.
Well, now, what we have to be concerned with about treaties are things that Clinton and some of these knuckleheads up there are doing, making with other countries. They're saying all kinds of things, and they're sort of wanting to put some of these treaties above our own national law. Is that correct?
There are many treaties that have been entered into that have superseded and have added to the Constitution or extended the coverage of the Constitution. The most famous case on that, and the first big case on it, was Missouri versus Holland. That was a case about migratory birds. Congress had attempted to regulate killing seasons on migratory birds, and the Supreme Court had declared those laws to be unconstitutional. And so the United States entered into a treaty with Canada about limiting the seasons and setting the seasons on migratory birds, ducks, for example. And in Missouri versus Holland, they said that superseded the Constitution. There's a provision in the Constitution that says the laws of the United States and the treaties made thereunder are the supreme law of the land.
Well, I think what you're mentioning here about treaties, right now in the United Nations, they're working on world disarmament of all civilians, the entire civilian population of the world, and of course they want to start with the United States.
Well, not just the civilian population of the world, it's really most of the world governments too, except of course for the UN.
For the UN forces, they get to keep theirs.
They get to keep theirs. That's a classical mark of tyranny, or the classical opening to tyranny. And I remember that the Speaker of the House of Representatives said last night on this program that the framers, and I've said it before on this program, that the framers of the Constitution designed this government to be so inefficient that no would-be dictator would ever be able to take it over. And there's a purpose to the madness. And when some idiot wrote our local newspaper talking about a potential presidential candidate being the chairman, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, saying that if he were elected president and ran the country the way he ran the Army, that we wouldn't have any problems. That is exactly what's wrong. Because running the Army may be a virtual dictatorship, but running the country is not.
It's not a dictatorship.
Absolutely not.
Well, you know, Judge, you brought something to mind there that has really bothered me. I've heard people say, I was on an airplane with a lady from Rhode Island here a while back. We happened to be sitting next to each other and began to talk politics, and she was curious about what our show was about. She hadn't seen it, and I said, well, we certainly try and promote the right thinking concepts about this country. And she said, well, you know who she thought would be a good president? She said, well, Colin Powell. I said, really? I said, well, why do you think Colin Powell will be a good president? Well, he seems like a nice man. I said, what's he done? Well, he seems like a nice man. But I asked, what has he done? What do we know about him? Well, I don't know, and this kind of logic will not fly. And she said, well, he did a good job in the Gulf War. Well, he didn't really do anything in the Gulf War. I mean, Norman Schwarzkopf ran the Gulf War as far as I know.
Now, I don't doubt for 1 minute that John Powell was a very intelligent man, a very capable man, capable in the arts for which he had been trained, which is the military. I do not know that he's had any training at all in the civilian art of a constitutional republic.
Well, wasn't he a go-between between Norman Schwarzkopf and George Bush?
Yes, I think that's what he was. Between Schwarzkopf, the commander on the scene who made the decisions of what he was going to do and when he was going to do it, and the president on the other hand.
Well, and I'm certainly not low rating Colin Powell. I mean, he may be a very fine individual. He may be. I don't know. But the problem is we can't put try to put someone in office just because they seem like they're a nice person. We don't know anything about them. I heard people say they voted for this person in there now, Bill Clinton, who is impersonal. Well, I shouldn't say that. He is the president of the United States, as scary as that is, until we can defeat him in an election. But they said, well, he seems like a nice person. He has a nice smile. Well, wait a minute. What are we talking about here? You know?
Well, I don't know when he's made up his mind on something. They say that he's very cognizant of the Constitution and wants to make sure that none of his proposals violate the provisions of the Constitution. But as one wag put it, and I thought it was rather interesting, he may have taught constitutional law, but he certainly didn't inhale it. I'll give you an update on the software program for making it easier to write to your congressmen, to your senators, to anybody in political power, in a political position, because I think the power rests in you, members of the public. That's where the power is. These other people are simply your delegates, your representatives. I got off the mailing list of one senator once several years ago when he wanted me to contribute to his presidential campaign. Incidentally, he didn't even become a contender, but they wanted me to contribute to his presidential campaign, and I wanted to know where he stood on the Panama Canal Treaty. You know, they talk about the Panama Canal. It's not the Panama Canal. It was the American canal located in Panama.
Mm-hmm.
And the giveaway on it offended me. Well, anyhow, I'll give you an update on the software program as soon as I receive it and have a chance to try it out.
Anyway, you know, it's important that we have a reliable gun, but you know what else? It's also important that we have a reliable and sharp knife. Now, we have discovered one of the neatest things, and we have a little knife sharpener here. This is called a Pocket Pal. It has some little tungsten carbide inserts right here. And friends, let me tell you what, this thing will sharpen a knife like crazy. You can always have it with you because it has a little hole here to go on a keychain. You just slip it in your pocket. It's very thin and flat, but it does the same job as a much larger knife sharpener. So let me show you how it works. And let me also remind you that if you're a bow hunter, you can sharpen broadheads down to a razor sharp cutting edge with this little Pocket Pal. So all you have to do, and take a look at this, we'll got our buck knife here, and all you have to do is put it on a surface like so, and it needs to be a firm surface, and probably be better off the edge of this, but we'll show you how it works, and just pull the blade through the carbide inserts. And the first couple of times, you can feel it drag there. You can feel it literally sharpening that metal. A couple of times with a little force, and then 7 or 8 times just lightly across, just like so. 7 or 8 times or so. And friends, let me tell you what. This jewel will shave after coming across on the little Pocket Pal here. Now then, this is available through us here at the program, the Pocket Pal. Call Bobby or Al at our 800 number, 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN, 1-800-728-8486, and we're pricing this at $7.95 plus shipping and handling. So this is, again, one of the neatest little things to come through here. This little Pocket Pal knife sharpener, $7.95. Call Bobby or Al, 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN, 1-800-728-8486 for the Pocket Pal.
If you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call us at 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. That's 1-800-728-8486. Our staff will be very happy to talk to you. The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, friends, this Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum is one of the most accurate handguns that I've ever fired. But you know what? For it to shoot properly, it has to be fed proper ammunition. It has to be fed ammunition that's compatible with its tolerances, and that's essential to make it run good. The same situation with this Colt Sporter. If the ammunition's no good, the gun will not function properly. Well, you know what? Friends, this is something that I want to share with everyone, because I feel like our health club products that I've started using and within this past year has been one of the great discoveries of my adult life. Now, this is no joke. If you want to feel, I told somebody the other day, I don't feel like a new person, I feel like somebody else. I mean, it is fantastic how much better I feel. And I'm sure that a lot of you would really enjoy being more productive, having more energy, getting more stuff done. Because, you know, today, with all that's going on around us, we need all the strength and energy. It also makes you sharper mentally. It makes you feel so much better. Please give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Give us your address and phone number, and one of our people will get back to you immediately. For yourselves, friends, it also helps our program, but especially for you, call us, 1-800-895-7916.
Hello, folks. It's Jerry Rowland with the Shootin' Show. I want to let some of you be aware, not only is these health club a really good opportunity to improve your health, feel better, and have more energy and be more productive, but we realize that there are some of you that might be interested in some part-time income, some very, very easy money, just by sharing this idea with other folks and letting them know what you're experiencing. And also, there are going to be some of you who are interested in making some very serious money. If that would be the case, we'd like for you to be sure when you call in to indicate that you're interested in an opportunity to earn some very serious money or some part-time income, because we have some special information we'd like to send you. Appreciate it, and let's keep working on feeling good and have being more productive, more energy, because it's there for us. Appreciate it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing here in the foyer at Dakota Arms in beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, Sturgis, South Dakota. And this young lady is named Norma Allen, and Norma is vice president here at Dakota Arms. Now, your husband, Don, you and he originated this business, right?
That's right.
Norma, how did you get started in the firearms business?
We started as a custom gun maker about 20 years ago, and it's gradually evolved to the point we're making the Dakota rifles and offering the proprietary cartridges.
Well, we're going to be talking about the cartridges in just a minute, but as far as your rifles, how many different models of rifles do you make?
We have the single-shot falling block, we have the 22, and then in our 76 rifles we have the classic grade, the safari grade, and the African.
Well, I'm very excited about your line of cartridges, and I know that Corbin is loading some of your cartridges at this time. And I have never been a fan of belted magnums myself, and I'm so glad to see you folks come along and do something that's needed doing, huh?
That's right.
Well, we're going to take a brief look through their custom, I say custom, because really they are a semi-custom gun maker even today. You manufacture several guns a day.
Right.
A lot of hand-fitting, special wood selections, things like that. So, friends, we're just going to take a little stroll back through their shop. Most of the people have gone home for the day, so we're going to take a quick look and show you how some of the Dakota Arms guns are made.
Okay.
Now, Norma, what are you holding here? This is real pretty high-powered rifle, obviously. Tell us what it is, please.
This is a classic grade rifle. It's done in our 330 Dakota.
Now, the 330 Dakota, give me a little information about that chambering.
The 330 Dakota is similar to the 338. The ballistics are better than the 338, and you have no belt.
Now then, we were talking about rechambering. Is it possible for someone out there to rechamber their gun for one of your calibers?
Yes, it is. The 330 cleans up the 338 chamber with no problem. A couple of the others do not, but
So in this particular case, you're saying you can take a 330, if you have a gun chambered for a 338 Winchester, that can be rechambered, and they don't have to do anything but rechamber for the 330 Dakota.
that's right.
And they get a more powerful cartridge, one that probably has extended case life, right?
Right.
Now these cases are based on what, the 404 Jeffrey, is that right?
That's right. Shortened 404 Jeffrey.
Uh-huh.
It's 2.5 inch length case. Low pressure, so you do get a long.
So you're not talking about any higher pressures than what is normally associated with a Magnum rifle caliber, is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Well, this is great. Well, let's take a closer look at this Dakota Arms Classic.
This is an upgraded classic grade in that it has high-grade wood on it. It has inletted sling swivels and a cheek piece. This action is completely machined from bar stock out of 4140 pre-hardened steels. All the parts are machined. It's controlled round feed with a full claw extractor.
Now, Norma, this, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your Dakota action, it looks like you've taken the best principles of the pre-64 Winchester, which is, of course, a great classic and favorite of hunters all over the world, and also some things from the 98 Mauser.
That's right. It's breached like a Mauser, and the claw extractor, controlled round feed, is like the Mauser. We added some other features to it. We have a very unique bolt release system that blocks the gases that would come down along that raceway. It has the 3-position safety, which is also like the pre-64 Model 7.
So, in other words, in 3-position safety, you can unload this gun through the magazine with the safety on, but the action will still work in one of the positions with safety on, right?
Right.
Well, friends, I'll tell you what, these are so nicely finished and machined. Of course, we're talking here, these are definitely Cadillac guns, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, this is not something you'd find on your shelf at your local department store.
No.
From the time someone places an order with you, how long is it until delivery?
3 months on the 76s and about 6 to 8 months on the single-shot rifles.
Well, and there's a reason for that now. The customer can specify whether it's a right or left-handed action.
That's right.
What kind of wood, and of course you have some of the prettiest wood I've ever seen. And there are a lot of custom features that you could literally build a gun from the ground up for you, the customer, right?
That's right.
Well, friends, we'll be giving you a phone number on Dakota Arms if you would like information on their fine guns. Norman, do you have anything, do you actually stock any guns that just can be sold if someone wants to order one?
Very few.
So it's pretty much going to be a hurry up and wait situation.
Right.
But when you get the gun, it's going to be that one of those special things that you have that's one of those things that can be exactly what you want.
That's right.
And I do understand what you have an accuracy grade of 1 inch for a 5-shot group at 100 yards or 3-shot group.
Right.
With factory ammunition or
That's
whatever.
right.
Of course, you also have one other thing you add to that, and that has to do with customer satisfaction. Is that
That's
correct?
right. That's right.
Well, I think that's so important to have a family-owned and operated factory of any kind. Well, let's take a look at some other things.
This is the final assembly area where the stocks are brought in a fully finished state, and then they're matched up with the blue barrels and receivers. This is a stock finishing area where the stocks and the barrel action are fitted, bedded, and shaped, get ready for sanding. The stocks are cut from a blank like this. Once they come off the CNC equipment, we have a completely finished and turned stock and inletted.
Now, Norman, we're standing here among parts. Now, what is this?
This is the way the receivers start from bar stock with a hole pre-drilled through before they start on the machinery. We're in the final finishing stages on this run of receivers. I think we're up to the 7th op on this one. The next one will round over the top and finish it all up. So you can see how these are precisely machined. We have the recoil lug there. That was a famous part of the Winchester Model 70.
Yes. Well, I tell you what, I'm looking at it. They have such a neat shop here. A lot of very expensive computer-operated machinery. And of course, they have also some very fine craftsmen here we're doing this by hand.
We certainly do.
Well, needless to say, friends, we wanted to give you just a little insight into how one of our finest semi-custom, but it is a factory, it is a production line, even though they don't have a great production number. But we thought you'd certainly enjoy seeing the inside of one of our best gun factories. And Norma, we want to thank you for taking time to visit with us today and show us some of your operation. For information on the product line from Dakota Arms, give them a call, area 605-347-4686. Again, area 605-347-4686. To see if the C3 system will fit your gun, call Bobby or Al at 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. That's our 800 number, 1-800-728-8486. If you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call us at 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. That's 1-800-728-8486. Our staff will be very happy to talk to you.